Good evening. Let's start the second chapter of our economic survey. Yesterday we were talking about how India took a fiscal consolidation path. We reduced our primary deficit, we reduced our fiscal deficit, and we also decided that we have to talk about our sustainability, economic resilience in terms of the different metric. What metric were we talking about? What was the metric? 50% of what? Debt to GDP ratio is 50%. Okay, this was the metric that India wants to move, and this 50% is that of center alone. So, how are we actually going to do that? We are going to see in this chapter. Now, when you're talking about fiscal consolidation, you have to look at the supply side and demand side. How can you make a process more efficient, reduce wastage, increase demand? Simply put, this is the way you will make a process efficient. Input wastage, you reduce it. Demand, you increase it. Okay. So when you're talking about fiscal deficit, what is the formula? Deficit simply means the difference between, or let's talk with deficit. Deficit simply means how much you have and how much you actually need. The difference between, the delta between, delta means difference. What you actually have and what you actually need. Okay. Fiscal deficit in this context is, in that year, how much money do we need so that all our needs are fulfilled. Here you have to talk about two different metrics: primary deficit, revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit. Primary deficit means it shows how much money are we using for paying up the interest. It means we are consuming more without paying our old loans. Revenue deficit is about what are you consuming on. Like in the present day government policies, you are spending that money for your day-to-day consumption. Effective revenue deficit means, let's say if you are using that money for building roads, that is also considered as an expense by the government. Anything that is requiring you to spend money on economic terms or like capex, okay, you remove that, you will get the effective revenue deficit. Clear? This is what we are focusing on, the basics. In this chapter, what we are focusing on is debt sustainability. What do you mean by debt sustainability? You're taking a loan and you want to take another loan. How much of it can you afford? The concept of this chapter and the way forward completely relies on our understanding of debt sustainability. Why are you taking a loan? Basically, to do some business. Ideally speaking, loans are not meant for consumption. Loans are always meant for creating a new business or an asset. So, when is your debt sustainable? Let's say I want to do a business and I'll borrow at 10% interest. My business is sustainable at least if it covers the interest cost and my business expense, my personal expense. Let's say 15% it is. When my growth is greater than the interest rate, such kind of a debt is called a sustainable debt. India is striving for this sustainable debt. When will interest rate increase? Let's say if you want a new loan, last time you took it for 10%. Under what conditions the bank will say, no, I will not give you 10%. If you give me 12%, I'll give you a new loan. All other conditions are same except India's performance. In such a scenario, If India is not living up to this 15%, instead it is going at 11% only. 10% is going away in paying the interest. 1% only is left with the business and his personal needs. It is not a sustainable way of living a life. Obviously, the bankers will be concerned. If this business is doing well, why would they just gain 11% when they are borrowing at 10%? So, it is considered to be a risky business. I want to ask more, just to ensure that this guy is not planning to do some fraud or is in the intention of not paying back the money. So the risk premium will increase when debt sustainability is not there in an economy. So the main purpose of fiscal consolidation is when you reduce the interest rates, more and more capital will be generated for starting new businesses. Land, labor, capital, enterprise. Land fixed. There is nothing much we can do about it. Capital, entire globe is competing for that. So we need to make our country a favorable destination. Labor laws, we have already done that. Enterprising, ease of doing business is a factor of science and technology, which is a long-term metric. When all other things remain constant, what is the first thing we should focus on? Whatever makes capital affordable. So that's why we started with banking reforms, the most traditional channel. Then we started moving towards markets. Now we are moving towards fiscal deficit. How did we actually do it? Let's see in this chapter. Now, take a look at this. Revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, and primary deficit. You will see a downward trend. This indicates our government is doing well in managing on both the sides. Or it can either be the fact that we have increased our tax rates, or we are just better at all the processes. We are much more efficient. These are the only two instances where the deficits will come down. If the tax rates were increased, would you be happy? No. So obviously it is the second scenario. What happened for efficiency? Let us understand. Okay. Now there is a concept called tax buoyancy. What do you mean by tax buoyancy? See, if GDP is increasing, ideally your tax should also increase, right? If it is not happening, there is something wrong in the formal nature of the economy. Some illegal activities must be happening, or most of the activities are low value products. You will pay income tax only above a certain threshold, right? Similarly, even when activity is generated above a certain threshold, GST will come into the picture. If GDP is rising, but tax is not rising, either there is something wrong in the picture or you are just inefficient. So to improve tax buoyancy is the basic tenet of any state. India is doing just that. How? By leveraging technology. We are broadening our tax base. More and more number of people are paying up income tax. That is the first change. I don't want you to get into the specifics, but take a look at the direct taxes. You can get two questions here. One, components of direct tax. Two, trend of the direct taxes. Two levels of questions are possible. Take a look at this table. In the last few years, is there a constant trend? 27, 30, 34, 38, 42. 27, 30, 34, 38, 42. Is there a continuous increase? So watch out for this. What do you see usually in prelims questions? If UPSC examiner says that it is consistently increasing, usually you are told that They are wrong. But take a look here. Gross tax revenue. Is it consistently increasing? So if the keyword consistently increasing in the last 5 years, if this point is given, would you agree with it? Yes, right? Please note this, extremely important. Then non-corporate taxes. Corporate tax, non-corporate tax. With respect to corporate tax, in 2019, we have reduced. In 2019, we have reduced the corporate tax. Why do you think we have reduced the corporate tax? Of course, to attract investments and make India a investment friendly destination. At that point of time, our growth rate was very bad. Nearly 5.5% was the growth rate. Immediately after this tax reform, we thought something large is going to come up. Yes, it did. COVID came. But the entire flow of economy was disrupted. We had to pump in more money, we have to manage inflation and bring back the economy back on track. It took us almost 3 years. As you can see, from financial year 22-23, we slightly started getting better. So this is one of the trend. Take a look at this. Personal income tax. 8, 6, 8, 10, almost 12, 13. You are witnessing a continuous increase in the number of income tax payers too. Formalization of economy is steadily increasing. Please note this point. Take a look at this next. Security transaction tax. Now, if you are a stock market player, do you think this is a good trend for you? Increasing tax. Would you want more tax on your securities? And yet the government is doing so. More so in a segment called futures and options. How many of you know what is a future and what is an option in a market? Any idea? Okay. Simply put, I'll tell you again in stock markets and capital markets classes, but let me quickly summarize what F&O means. Futures and options are trade instruments in such a way that you are mitigating risk. Let's say, for example, a commodity X. Okay, it is going to cost 10 rupees today. At a future point, you are thinking that it will cost you 15 rupees. There is one more person who says that no, it will not cost 15 rupees, it will actually fall down to 8 rupees. Okay. So there will be market players who will be taking bet on either of the sides. Whoever wins gets the money. Looks like gambling, right? Yes, it is gambling if you do it without enough knowledge. 99% of the traders who came into the market after 2020 wiped out. They lost their entire wealth like this. Because this tool is not meant for making money alone. It is a commodity hedging. Hedging means you are trying to reduce your price volatility risk. Mainly it is meant for that. Okay. Let's say, I'll not try to complicate anything for you. I'll just give you a very, very simple example. Let's say you run a pav bhaji stall. Okay. Today you priced your pav bhaji at 50 rupees. Pav bhaji is made of tomatoes. Like the curry is made out of tomatoes. The bread will be fixed cost. Do you think throughout the year tomatoes cost will be same? No. In one season you will be having 100 rupees per kg. In some seasons 10 rupees. Depending on the supply. But do you think a customer will be happy if the price keeps on fluctuating for pav bhaji? No. They will have to manage that. Same is the case for every ingredient. During Russia-Ukraine war in 2022, the cost of edible oil went up significantly. Even when the local vendors are paying up 200 rupees for 1 kg of oil, they were not able to increase the prices because they will lose the market. So in a good season, if you are piling up your stock or hedging that risk, you will be saving up some money. This was the original intent of F&O. But what happened? Lot of youth started gambling their excess money, and that's why our governments started increasing the security transaction tax to discourage people or non-serious traders. But you will have to understand that it will have a uniform role. Okay, so our government wants market participants to have patience. So you want to enter into a market with a mindset of waiting for the long game. I will start doing SIP slowly so that it will compound and become a huge corpus of wealth at a future standpoint. This is the mindset with which government wants to encourage. What is happening when youth are attracted to this kind of F&O options? You will see that they are losing their money. Who is taking away this profit? Foreign players. So that's why F&O is charged like this. This is another trend for your exam. Now, there is one fact given here, nudge, by Income Tax Department, which focuses on influencing taxpayer behavior. They will continuously send automated prompts like pay your taxes on time, etc. by reminding them and following the behavior and ensuring they're paying up the taxes. So you might get this question, what is nudge? Non-intrusive usage of data to guide and enable taxpayers. So through technology like this, we were able to improve our tax collection. Okay, direct taxes. Next up, corporate taxes also recorded an average buoyancy close to unity during the previous period. Nothing much to talk about the corporate tax. Okay, we'll move forward. Other taxes also nothing much. Now when it comes to GST, we have to see how there is a year-on-year growth. 13, 15, 16, 17. Again the tax collection is steadily increasing even in indirect taxes. Clear? Next up, if you see how we approach our GST, how we estimate the performance of our economy through GST, one metric is e-way bills. What is an e-way bill? E-way bill is generated when logistics are involved in taking goods from one place to another. By the number of e-way bills generated, we can say our economy is doing well. Okay, so that is also a good metric. You can see how there is a revival in the e-way bill generation. Briefly there was a stagnation, but now it is expected to increase. So recently you have seen how GST reforms were there. Most of the commodities were adjusted in just 2 tax brackets. Okay, as a result, people are expected to consume more, which will lead to a consumption-led economy. Yesterday we saw that consumption, the C component of GDP formula. All of you remember the formula, right? C part constitutes roughly around 61% of our economic growth, like the GDP component. Out of 100 rupees, 60 is coming from consumption. Why? Because of this kind of reforms. Now, this changes introduced in GST for respective items is not important. You don't have to mug up individual data. This is not meant for a clerical exam. So ignore. One important thing that you have to remember, generally income tax is not there on agriculture income. So automatically people assume that there is no GST also on any agricultural input, which is false. You have GST on agricultural equipment, even on fertilizers also. But they are now slashed to 5%. Previously it is 18%. Okay. So this is one fact where you can fall in the trap of UPSC. Just because agriculture doesn't have income tax, direct tax, doesn't mean indirect taxes are not applicable on agricultural inputs. Clear? Moving forward. Right. This is also very important. In the context of health, insurance policies were previously charged with GST. Okay. Now that is not the case. There is a GST exemption to all individual life and health insurance policies as well as reinsurance of those individual policies. These two changes you remember. If MCQs are supposed to be designed, it will be around these 2 points most likely. Non-tax revenues. Okay. When it comes to non-tax, where is, okay, larger picture first. What are we talking about? How to spend our money efficiently and reduce the fiscal deficit. Supply side, demand side. Where are we getting our money from? Tax, non-tax. We have spoken about taxes, direct tax, indirect tax. What is left? Non-tax revenue. What are the components of non-tax revenue? Profits, dividends, and disinvestment proceeds. Right. So, if our government companies are performing efficiently, if they are generating profit, if they are giving us dividends, if we are able to disinvest our sick industries and gain capital out of it, and we reinvest in good sectors, automatically it will lead to a long-term fiscal consolidation path. Right. So this heading is basically talking about the same thing. Here also we have to look at the trends given. Trends in non-tax revenue. Is it increasing or decreasing? Consistently increasing? Is there any glitch? No, right? Dividends and profits. Here you will not see a consistency. Because dividends and profits are subject to market risks and geopolitical tensions. Clear? So, you don't have control all the time. Sometimes, what is a dividend first of all? What is the difference between a dividend and a profit? Profit means, let's say, I bought this pen from manufacturer for 10 rupees. I sold it in the market for 15 rupees. I took the 5 rupees profit. The difference or signorage as it is called. Same thing when I took 10 rupees from the market directly. This pen costed 10 rupees, right? I only had 5 rupees. The rest 5 rupees I took from the market. I borrowed from the market and told them that, okay, since you gave 5 rupees, you own 50% of this company. And as a result, this 10 rupees and this 15 rupees, the profit 5 rupees is equally shared to those people also. That is called dividend. Okay. So when government, by virtue of being an owner of a company, when it does well, it gets its profits. In 21, 22, 23, companies, the PSUs did extremely well because there was a new PSU policy. Sick industries were let go of. Some reforms internally were taken up. There was performance pressure. There was demand of accountability. Off-budget borrowing, namely, government will no longer give you guarantee. Off-budget borrowing is taken out. Companies were told that unless and until you work hard, you get your own finance, you will not be able to pay salaries for your employees. So you go figure out. Eventually, all these PSUs which had sort of a monopoly. Take the case of Coal India, oil and gas, like ONGC, OIL, BHEL, all the defense PSUs. They did extremely well, secured orders from the government, supplied to the market. generated profits, gave dividends to the government, and showed that if accountability is fixed, even public sector units can generate extremely good results. That's why we were able to see this trend. Okay. But when it comes to dividends and profits, sometimes companies decide not to give dividends because they want to reinvest in their business and grow. Clear? So this is the reason. Non-debt capital receipts. Basically, you are talking about disinvestment. Many disinvestment trends were there. Like say for example, Air India, NTPC. Okay. So all the money that is generated out of this asset sale is again reinvested through our government route only. Survey in fact says that let's reduce the ownership to just 26%. If you have 26% ownership as a company, according to Companies Act, you will have the strategic control. You hand over the practical day-to-day work of administration to private sector. When some strategic control is supposed to be maintained, government will enter into the picture. That makes our policies even more efficient. Okay, this is what the survey says. Now, when it comes to trends in expenditure, I've already told you, more or less, we are trying to reduce our subsidies and expenditure. Take a look at this. 2.49699231 Expenditure is increasing. Take a look at this. Pension. There is no consistent trend because some states are moving to the so-called NPS. What is this NPS, etc.? We will see in a different chapter. But for now, just remember that the trend is not constant. Subsidies, triple F. For petrol, I said fuel. Fertilizer, food and petroleum. 54, 2.51, 1.88, 7468. In this 1 year, we decided to give additional input. But we are now reducing it. Food. We still have to give decent food subsidy because the economic vulnerability of some social groups is not yet taken care of. Petroleum, more or less constant due to fluctuations in global economy. Some here and there, some natural gas subsidies are varying because of the price fluctuations in the global market. Right. So these are some of the, take a look at this trend-based table of revenue expenditure. It is important. Now, cross subsidy. For example, take the case of Indian Railways. There are two departments or two sectors. One is the passenger sector and other is freight sector. Let's say if government incurs a cost of 100 rupees on running the passenger trains, they're only able to recover 50% of it, 50 to 60% of it. They're making money on freight, but they don't want to pass on the cost to the passengers, which makes passenger segment a pretty loss-making venture. There is one segment where the Indian Railways discovered something, third AC. If you see in the last few years, the number of people who are willing to pay a premium for AC coaches increased. So our government started increasing the number of third AC coaches, which is now the only profit-making venture within the passenger segment. Okay. Similarly, when you're talking about the power subsidy, industries will pay more, farmers will pay less, even when they can, because of poor data and targeting. This kind of cross subsidization should stop. This is what the economic survey says. And even our Electricity Act, which was recently amended, is demanding that there is a transparency without any cross subsidization, which will help the state power generation companies and distributing companies to get some advantage. This is something that you need to go through. Now, one more reason why we have to focus on timely delivery. Either you give funds early or you give funds late. What happens is they will just lie there rotting. They will neither generate interest nor work will be done. So our survey suggests that the government has undertaken a major step called just-in-time release. Where will states get their money from? We'll see that. But from center to the states, just on time, just before giving away that money to the public for clearing the bills, you will get your funds. And it is routed through one specific account. Okay? Take a look at this. SNA Sparsh. Single nodal account. Samyochit Pranali Ekakrit Shigra Hastataran. Whatever. Like pure Hindi or Sanskrit. Not relevant exact name, but you just remember the name here. Sparsh. So basically what we are trying to say is we are streamlining the bottlenecks. Okay. When these bottlenecks are addressed, efficiency automatically comes in, and this fiscal prudence will automatically lead to debt sustainability, fiscal consolidation. And finally, when we are talking about the state finances, capital expenditure is also increasing. Nothing to talk about here. Again, read this table. Very important for your prelims exam. Now, when you are talking about the state finances, you will see that very little money is available with the state governments, and they are dependent on finance commission and central government grants. So what are the finance commission grants? What are the areas where finance commission is giving money, and how it will impact the state revenues? You will see in this respective tables. Please go through these tables, especially these grants. Where will you get the grants? What sectors will you get the grants? It is given in this chapter. Please take a look at that. Okay. So from prelim standpoint, I think this is it. From prelim standpoint, you don't have to really worry about the rest of the factors in this chapter. Okay. Of course, with respect to the debt profile, that entire debt and the component of debt we will discuss separately very slowly in the next class. That's it for the day. We'll again meet on Tuesday.